Hello, everybody. My name is Simon Corazza, and I'm going to talk about my ENCOMP 100 coding contest submission, where I made Solitaire in Python. I started off by initializing two NumPy arrays, one that shows what the user will see, and the other one that shows all the cards with their position on the board. No user interaction has been added up until this point. In version 1, I introduced the first user input, where there's three main functions the user can choose from. To either draw a card from the pile, to move a card around the board, or take a card off the board. In version 2, I began to work on my first function, the remove card function. It did not work as I hoped, and this was one of the first of many times where I began to feel frustrated by not getting the result on the first time. However, trying again using the debugger helped me out greatly throughout this project. In version 3, I added two functions, one that checks whether or not a card is face up or not, should be face up after a move, or one that checks the legality of a move in Solitaire. And as you can see from the test case above, both of these still did not work. In version 4, I began to test the edge cases. For example, moving a card to a empty column would result in an indexing error and a runtime error. And I had to work through a lot of bugs, little bugs like these, using the debugger, and I slowly began to form a more tangible product. In version 5, I finally was able to achieve functionality in terms that only legal moves were allowed in my game. However, we could only move one card at a time, which is problematic, right? It worked everything like Solitaire, except for the fact that you could only move one card at a time. And this took me a long time to figure out. In version 6, I was finally able to move multiple cards, and the game was fully functional. However, as you can see from my code on the left, the functions, some of them were unnecessarily long and unreadable to someone who has not worked with the code. In version 7, I took those longer functions and refactored them so that someone who has not worked with this code could understand it and read it, and it's simple. I also improved error checking to test against the null case, which I found I often encountered and was quite problematic when I was running through the game quite fast. I also could run through the game top to bottom and get my win statement. My main takeaways from this project is that although the game can still be improved, even though I spent a lot of time on it, I want to refine it after finals when I'm a little less busy in the summer. I also enjoyed experiencing breakthroughs in my understanding of Python throughout this project, and the satisfaction after spending a lot of time forcing myself to understand it, which I wouldn't have done if I didn't do this project. I'm also inspired after this project to create even more additional personal projects in the future. And I'd like to also give a huge thank you to Dr. Joseph for furthering my understanding of the debugging process, but more importantly, for inspiring me to attempt this project and to push myself to do this project. Thank you very much.